world, Millie Florence here. I am the author of books for middle graders. This one I published when I was 13, this one I published when I was 15, and I'm currently working on my third book. And I thought it would be fun to do a Q&A video because I haven't done any of those before. So I put up one of those very popular sticker things on Instagram to see what you guys would ask, and I got some fun questions, so I thought I would go through them. And yes, by the way, I do have an Instagram account, so if you don't already, go ahead and follow me on Instagram where I post all fun writing updates and fun things. A special thank you to everyone who sent in questions. These will be super fun and I will shout them out each individually as I get into each question. Alright, let's get started. MM1R1 asks, what was the first story you ever wrote? That is a really good question and I don't entirely know. For those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I don't even really know when I started writing. I started writing so young. Literally for as long as I can remember, and I can remember back to even when I was like 3 or whatever, I have loved stories and telling stories and writing stories and drawing pictures for stories or whatever. I've always been obsessed with it. So it's, again, it sort of depends on like, what's your definition of a story? I mean, I told a bunch of stories aloud that I don't have written down ever since I was little. I would draw stick figure, like, comic book things. Also, like I've said before, my parents would type down stories that I dictated aloud to them when I was little and before I could type. And I actually have a video of me reading some of those really old stories that you can find up there. It's a super fun video where I go through a bunch of the stuff I wrote from like age 5 to age 12, and it's really funny and fun. So if you want to know more about my really early stories, you should check that out. Nicole Dust Writer asks, favorite read of 2020? That is so hard. I've read a lot of good books this year. Can I do top 3? I'm gonna do top 3. So the first one is The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. My cousin has been recommending this book to me for literally years, and I finally got around to reading it and I loved it so much. It was so good. It's an adaptation of a lesser known fairy tale also called The Goose Girl, and I feel like with most fairy tale adaptations, they're either like too predictable or they're too crazy, but this struck like the perfect balance for me. So thanks for the recommendation, Nora. Another one that was really good this year, that again I'd been seeing for a while and I finally got around to reading, was 100 Days of Sunlight by Abby Emmons. The big reason I had so much fun and I love this book so much is that Abby Emmons is a lot like me in a lot of ways. She was homeschooled, she is an indie author, a self-published author, and she did such an amazing job with this book. It was so good. I read it in like 24 hours and yeah, it was really good. And also, I think Adventures with Waffles. I don't know if you guys know that one. It's a sort of lesser known middle grade book that was, I think it was originally written, I'm gonna mess this up. It was originally written in like Scandinavian, I think? So it was translated into English. It's a story about two best friends and just the everyday mischief and adventures they get up to, a lot of which involves waffles. And my mom read it aloud to me and my siblings. It was one of our family read alouds, and it was so funny. We could not stop laughing. Like every chapter we were always like begging for more, like please let's read more, and it was so funny. So many laughs, but it was also like really heartwarming and sweet. A lot of it. It was such a good book. I highly recommend it. I will link all 3 of those books below if you want to check them out. They're so good. Adventures with Waffles especially, that was amazing. It was just wonderful. You know, whenever we do a family read aloud that really works, it's amazing. You know it's a good book because like it appeals to all ages. So as old as 17 or as young as 6, appeals to all of us, so. Nicole Dust Writer also asks, what is your #1 piece of advice for young writers? I do not have a #1 piece of advice for young writers because I think any one piece of advice, if isolated, can not always be a great piece of advice. So instead, if you are looking for advice for young writers, I have a video about that, which you can find up there. And yeah, that's where I put all my good advice for young authors. Erin Forbes Author asks, how do you begin forming your characters? That's really hard. I don't think I even really know the answer to that question. A lot of times they just sort of pop into my head, kind of fully formed. I found that if I try to like think about it as forming my characters and making my characters, their personalities end up feeling really contrived. So I think about it more as if I'm getting to know them, like I'm making friends with a person. Ask them questions and I find things out about them that I didn't know before, and so it feels a lot more like they're real people because that's how you get to know real people. Aaron Forbes also asks, what is your top literary dream / aspiration? I have a few. I think my biggest, craziest one, which is probably like the most unlikely but would also be the coolest, would be to win the John Newbery Medal. For those of you who don't know, that's like the biggest award for middle grade fiction that a middle grade book can get. It's really awesome, and I generally like loved all the books that have gotten the Newbery Award. So that includes like Because of Winn-Dixie, Flora and Ulysses, a lot of K.D. Camillo books, Strawberry Girl, like a lot of really good books that I love have won the Newbery Award, so I have a lot of respect for that award, and it would be amazing if one of my books won it someday. That's probably like 10-20 years in the future though, so it'll probably be a while before that happens, if ever. It's not really something I have control over. I mean, I've sent both my books, Honey Butter and Lydia Green of Wilmore Glen, to the Newbery Award for consideration each year they were published. They didn't win, and I'm not at all surprised they didn't, because they're my first books and I'm only 17. But someday in the future maybe. I really want to do some more public speaking and teaching classes to young authors, which I've done some of. Specifically, I want to speak at the Illinois Young Authors Conference, which I attended when I was like 10 and then again when I was 11, and it was my favorite thing ever. It was absolutely amazing, absolutely spurred me on to continue chasing my dream. I'd always loved writing and knew I wanted to be a writer, but getting to meet like actual real life authors, as I call them, was just absolutely amazing, and it was definitely a turning point in my childhood. It really sort of set my dream to become an author in motion. So I really want to speak there, and tragically, I was actually slotted to speak there at the beginning of the year. I was going to speak there and teach several classes, but then of course 2020 coronavirus and it got canceled. But hopefully next time it happens, either 2021 or 2022, I'll get to speak there, and that will absolutely be a dream come true, because a lot of my heart is at that conference and it was absolutely amazing. It would just be such an honor to go there again, not just as a student this time, but as an author speaking to students who were in the same place I was all those years ago. Gosh, I'm gonna cry! Naomi King author asks, do you ever want to try writing a young adult novel? So you guys know I write mostly middle grade. I write books for generally kids like 7 to 14, I think, and young adult novels are novels for teens. I don't know if I would really want to write a young adult novel. I tend to enjoy writing middle grade novels and reading middle grade novels a lot more than I enjoy reading or writing young adult novels. I have one idea that's been in my head for a little while that would technically qualify as a young adult novel, so maybe someday, but I think my preferred genre of writing will always be middle grade. I love the quirkiness and how fun it is to write, and I love writing about kids because I love being a kid. I mean, I still love being a kid, and I love like being around kids. I love being around my younger siblings. I've done some babysitting and I really enjoy that. I love teaching classes for kids. I love kids. I love writing for kids. I love writing about being a kid, so. Maggie June asks, what's your favorite type of cutlery? This one! For those of you who don't know, this is Aragorn's sword. It's a replica of Aragorn's sword from Lord of the Rings. It's not sharp, so don't worry. But it looks sharp, and it's very cool. I dressed up as Aragorn for Halloween, but I got this for my birthday a couple years ago, and I was absolutely over the moon, so I like swords. Maggie Jude also says, on a more serious question, how do you stop writer's block? I think how you stop writer's block or you get through it is very different for different people. And I think you also have to take it as a case-by-case scenario, because sometimes the reason you're blocked one day might not be the reason you're blocked another day. It's an individual problem each time. However, I would say always a good idea to step away from work and for a little while and specifically decide to, because I've always noticed that if I accidentally go a day without writing or working, it's stressful, but if I decide beforehand I'm going to take that day off, it feels more like a vacation and actually taking it off and giving myself permission to relax, instead of constantly thinking in the back of my mind, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. So specifically give yourself time off and then come back to the problem and try to figure out what exactly is blocking you and sort of go from there. Because once you pinpoint the problem, then it's a lot easier to figure out the solution. It's Meaded asks, What do you think is the biggest challenge for young writers today? That's hard. I don't know if I really am in the position to like say what the biggest challenge is for young writers today. I mean, I know what my biggest challenges have been, but it's different for everyone. There are a lot of things today that make things actually like a lot easier for young writers. For example, like the internet, it's a lot easier to self-publish and do all those great things. As you have these younger authors rising and writing books, people tend to be a bit more accepting of when you publish a novel at a young age. However, I also think that these blessings can also have their downsides. The internet, which provides you a lot of great opportunities to publish your work and get it out there, also can be the biggest distraction. And it's a lot easier to scroll on Instagram or watch rabbit hole YouTube videos than to actually get work done. And also, because so many teen authors are publishing these days, I feel like it often stresses other authors out and like puts pressure on them. Young authors to feel like, oh well, these people all publish at a young age, then I have to publish at a young age, otherwise I'm a failure. Yeah, that's not true. And this is always what I've been a little bit concerned about, putting myself out there as a teen author, because I don't want other authors who haven't published yet to feel the pressure to publish at the young age. It's not for everyone, and it doesn't make you any less of an author if you publish when you're 17 or 70. So pressure and distractions. I think those are the two big problems that teen authors face today. Irene Harkin Kim asks, are you writing another novel? Yes, I am. I am writing another novel. I don't know how much I can really say about it like right now, but it's really good and it's really fun. Currently, at the time of the recording of this video, I am working on marking up the first draft, so I have the whole thing printed out and have my red pen and I'm going through it and deciding on changes and things, and I'm hoping to dive into the second draft in January 2021, and I'm really excited about it. There's lots of things I love about this story. I cannot wait to share it with you. The main character and I can't really talk about it, but I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. So, coming soon. Oh, and by the way, if you want to know more information and the title and everything about it when it all comes out a little bit sooner than maybe I'd be able to post on YouTube, it might be a great idea to subscribe to my email list where I give everyone all the updates and things and keep you posted about writing progress. So you can do that, link in the description. Writing Something asks, what are your best tips to write middle grade novels? I love this question. I love talking about writing middle grade novels and what sets them apart from other novels. However, if we're talking best tips, I think you need to understand kids. You need to understand the age group of people that you're writing about. And to do that, I would say, first and foremost, read the Ramona Quimby books, because they are some of the most accurate books when it comes to portraying a little kid and their thoughts and their feelings and all those things. Beverly Cleary is a master. Her books are so good and so realistic. Also, take your children characters seriously. Their emotions and thoughts are a lot more complex than a lot of adults give them credit for. The problem is that kids have trouble articulating those complex thoughts. They may not be able to completely understand what they're thinking or feeling, but they are feeling and thinking complex things, and their problems feel big to them. Just because they're not the problems that adults have does not mean that they're not big problems to those kids, and that they're real and legitimate problems and emotions. I've read a lot of middle grade books where the author does not really take their children characters seriously, and it doesn't feel real and it doesn't feel genuine. It's not good. But then of course on the flip side, you will have authors who their children characters are like doing crazy things that children characters would never do. So just try to write about real kids, really. Like, what would a real kid actually do? Forget about plot, forget about all that. Like, write a genuine, as real as you can make them child character, and the story will grow from there really well. Spend time around kids, read the Ramona Quimby books, take your children characters seriously, and make them as real as possible. Okay, I'm going to mess up this name. I'm really sorry. Judah Bortolamedia. I don't know, whatever. He asks, How did you get the idea for Honey Butter? Honey Butter is the story of 7-year-old Jamie Johnson, who is obsessed with collecting paint cards, like the paint cards of the cover that you see in paint stores and hardware stores that give you color sample ideas for what kind of paint you might want to buy. And that is how I got the idea. My family was repainting part of our house and we were hanging out in the paint store a lot. And to keep me and my siblings out of the way while they were buying brushes or paint or talking with the person at the counter or whatever, we sort of had to sit and stay in the paint card section, which was like a little bit separate from the rest of the store so we wouldn't distract them. And while we were there, I was just looking at the paint cards. There were several that had like really beautiful names, and me being the word nerd that I am, decided to take them because I really liked like the word pairing. It was super cool. So I took some home, and next time we went, I took a few more home, and I was like, oh, I'm collecting paint cards, you know? And then I just sort of struck me, what if I wrote a story about someone who was obsessed with collecting paint cards? And it just seemed like a really fun little quirk, and so I took that, and like any good story idea, I just started asking questions about it. Well, why are they obsessed with collecting paint cards? What do the paint cards mean to them? Why is it so exciting for them to collect paint cards? Who are they? Where can this lead? So I just took that little spark of idea and I started asking a bunch of questions about it. Last question from Zoe Anastasia, author. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you have any fun goals you want to share? I never really like the where do you see yourself in so-and-so years question, because I don't know. And also because I'm not the sort of person who really likes to think about the future too much, because it's a little scary for me. I mean, that's why I wrote Lydia Green of Mulberry Glen, where the whole theme is like change and figuring out how to cope with the idea that things will change and that time moves on and that you will grow up and that sort of thing. So it's really hard for me to think about that. 5 years, I would be like 22. That is so weird to think about. Hopefully by the time I'm 22, I would be like married and gonna have kids. That's what I would love to happen. I really want to be a mom someday. And beyond that, I don't really know. I don't really have any specific goals because I'm not looking that far ahead. I'm just sort of taking it a day at a time. I want to be a mom, and I want to write more books for you guys and publish more books and do more of all the authorly stuff, whatever that looks like. Or maybe I'll find something completely different. Maybe I'll be making movies. I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm sure it will have something to do with storytelling. And I hope I just continue to pursue the things I love. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a thumbs up, and if you want to follow me on more authorly adventures, whether that is vlogs and book events or day in the life, or want to learn more about storytelling, then feel free to subscribe. If you want to check out my books, Lydia Green of Mulberry Glen and Honey Butter, I would be forever grateful. I'm an author and selling books is kind of what I do, so if you would be willing to consider buying one of those or seeing if you can check it out from your library, I will love you forever. You can find the links to both my books in the description, where you can buy them on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all the places. Just a reminder, they would be a great gift for the young author, writer, or book lover in your life if you give them one of my books. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Millie Florence, signing out.